Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches, and hands down, my favorite tequila. Hey, I want to tell you about your new must-have accessory for your next Baja trip. Benchmark Maps has released a beautiful Baja California Road and Recreation Atlas. It's a 72-page large format book of detailed maps and recreation guides that makes the perfect planning tool for exploring Baja. Pick yours up at benchmarkmaps.com. Hey, before we get into today's show with Eric Solorzano, the king of Class 11, I want to shout out my heaping dose of gratitude to Sal Fish. Recently on my way home from the Nora Baja 500, I swung through Malibu and I stopped and had a slow Baja conversation with Sal, and he was just so gracious. We had a great time. I spent about 4 hours with him. We only recorded for about 90 minutes. We got all the way up to 1968, but Sal invited me to the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I took him up on his offer, and I just attended, and I got to see Slow Baja alum Kurt LeDuc and Cameron Steele, and Kurt paid me the nicest compliment. He said that I really captured him in our conversation, and that just means so much to me. And that's where I got to record this conversation with the humble El Rey, Eric Solorzano. He was on his way to being inducted to the Hall of Fame, and I was able to steal him away for a few minutes and record the show. So thanks, Sal, for that, and thanks, Eric, for making some time. And before we get on to the show, I want to thank a few folks who've dropped a taco in the tank. It's November now. It's the season of thanks, and I'm very thankful to Philip Greer, Amy Montgomery. You slid an entire tray of tacos and a side of tableside guacamole service, so thank you, Amy Montgomery, for that. David Carlo, my amigo in Alaska, thank you for all you've done for the show. Joseph Dean, can't wait to see you and the Baywatch. Cheneth down at the Nora 1000 in 2023. Thank you for keeping Slow Baja going. Gary Payne, thank you. Brandon Hopper, Jean-Ray Tippo, dropped an enchilada combo platter in the tank. Chris Burkert, Jonathan Dente, Scott Tate, thank you, amigos. And Jeff LaPlante just slid an entire tray of tacos into the tank today. Thank you, Jeff. And folks, if you're in LA and you're looking for a Porsche, go see Jeff LaPlante at South Bay Porsche in Torrance. All right. And without further ado, today's show, Eric Solorzano, El Rey, Class 11. Say hello.
Hello.
Tell me who you are.
I'm Eric Solorzano from Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico.
Just Eric Solorzano, just little Eric from Tijuana.
Yeah.
The king of Class 11, sitting here in my hotel room at the South Point on the day that you're getting inducted into the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame.
This started, riding my bicycle, on the dirt, because everything was dirt, In Tijuana, probably 70% of the city, the streets were dirt. And so we learned how to ride bicycles on dirt, motorcycles on dirt. And we used to, my dad's car, my sister's car, we used to drive them on dirt. So that's how we start, pretending we were racing. That was our background, racing background. So.
And I think growing up, you're in your early, about 60 years old?
62. I'm
62.
going to be 63.
So,
month.
I think growing up in that era, the off-road racing had been a huge thing already. It started. Your fathers or uncles would have seen the first ones. And so for you as a kid, it must have been really in the air.
Well, my dad and my uncles and, family members, my grandpa moved to La Paz in 1957. He had businesses in Tijuana, and he moved from Long Beach to Tijuana, and then he moved to La Paz. But to bring all this, pipe benders and stuff like that, to bend pipes for mufflers and brake lights and material to make his business, because we've been involved on a brake business since I was a kid. I was born in a shop where they did hydrovacs, did shoes, clutches, and stuff like that. So I've been involved in automotive since I was a kid.
Well, we've just jumped right into it. I turned the recorder on. I've got Eric Solorzano, the king of Class 11, sitting here. We're drinking a couple of cold ones. We're going to keep it short because you've got to get prepared for your induction today. And I'm just delighted to have seen you in the parking lot when you were smashing into that bench in front of the South Point, getting your bugs. You've got your 2 bugs here, your 2 famous bugs. And I think we ought to just get into, tell me about those 2 amazing machines that are out in front, and tell me, how you got going in this, riding motorcycles, bicycles first, motorcycles, and then, as I understand it, you had an injury and you decided, you know what, maybe I should get into a car and be a little safer. So let's just jump through it.
Well, everything started up back in 1974. I was invited by my uncle in La Paz, Mexico. I raced over in a motocross track, close to the ocean. So that was my first race, and that was my start. I kept riding and racing and doing this thing Wednesdays and Friday night racing, night racing, and racing, national championships in Mexico and all that stuff. So I kept racing probably till from 74 till 88 probably.
On motorcycles.
On motorcycles. And then I won a lot of first places, seconds, and thirds. But, I got injured a few times. And so I was old, getting old to do that same stuff, So I decided to start racing off-road. And the cheapest way was, a Class 11. But, in the past, I went to college on like a pre-runner Class 11, so I knew how to drive it and go to the dirt and all that stuff. So it was easy for me to start racing Class 11 because that was my daily driver. We used to go to Sierra Juarez to see the races, and I knew about off-road and stuff like that. I used to go watch. That's what.
So wait a second, Eric. Back up a little bit. You said you went to college in a pre-runner?
Well, it was like a pre-runner, yeah, a Volkswagen.
Okay. So every day you're
I was driving that bug,
every day.
With a bigger motor, it was Bilstein shocks, and it did not have a roll cage, but it was a pretty nice, car. I can send you some pictures of it,
All
cool.
right. So when did you enter that first race in a Class 11?
There's a lot of local races and, Class 11 races. No, not only Class 11, races, and there's code, record. Back in those days, it was Baja Internacional, Lu Peralta, who made it was the second after SCORE, that was Baja Promotions. We learned with Baja Promotions, they have a lot of cars, on entries. And he made, great races in Tecate, that area, Ensenada. Not the same courses at SCORE. So we started up racing there. We learned how to race, with Lou, with Baja International, with Record. That's our beginning of racing. And then after a few years, we won the Baja 1000.
And when was that?
93.
93. He can still remember his first big overall win, or class win. Mexicali.
Yeah.
Hey, what was your relationship with Ramon Castro?
I never had like a friendship, but I always wanted to be Ramon. And I unfortunately, when I started up racing, Ramon started up racing Class 7s, and I wanted to be Ramon.
You wanted to be Ramon.
Yeah.
El Tomate?
El Tomate, yeah.
Okay, I figured that he's a little bit older than you.
No, he's younger.
He's younger.
He started up with Ramon and Martin Garibay. He drove my car back at the Baja 2000. Martin, he was a great driver.
Well, you've got 2 cars, the gray bug and the red bug.
We got a third car we did over at COVID.
You did another one.
Yeah.
Now tell me about these 2. We were sitting down into your red car to do the interview in front of the hotel, and I just had a moment of knowing that my editor, Christopher Kaiser, was going to just bust my balls about having that noisy environment, but I really wanted to do it. It was so cool to just be sitting in the car with you, but it's open. It's open windshield, no windshield, open, windows. So we moved up to my hotel room here, and that car looks like it's been through a little bit. When you see the floor and the sills and whatnot, it's had a life. Tell me a little bit about your two race vehicles.
Between the two cars and I, we've been to hell and back, but it's been fun having them as a family because they are.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, you've been racing that gray one since day one. Yeah? That's amazing.
Yeah.
33, 32, 33 years now?
32, but it's been...
Who's counting?
Pardon me?
Who's counting 32 years?
And if you go into one of the race cars, you don't hear a sound or something that is loose, and they're solid.
They're solid, yeah.
They've been beat up, but they're when they go there, they want to race. They have their own life, I can say that because they're different. They can have the same motor, same suspension, but they're a different kind of breed.
Hey, doing my research on you, I read a little bit about one of the suspensions. I think it's the Cheneth suspension that you have. Is it true that you bought that thing for $75 30 years ago?
On the red car, yes. Somebody was going to cut a car and send it to the metal guy. So I went to a guy and I asked him, "What are you going to do with this car?" He told me, "Well, I'm going to send it to the metal guy, scrap guy." So I told him, "How much you want for the roll cage?" It was a Chenoweth roll cage. It is, So I got a grinder, cut the welds and cut the roof and took the whole thing, the structure, because that's what it is, the structure. The other add-ons, we made and reinforcements and all that stuff. But that roll cage is still there, and it's been certified every year and no cracks.
Amazing. People tell me that even Class 11 is expensive now, but if you're going with 30 years on the same cage that you bought for $75 and put a lot of sweat equity into, that's an amazing story.
Well, luckily we started with our right foot. We try to look for sponsors, the right sponsors, give them the right, what we do with our sponsors, we reflect what we're doing, that's very important, in the right way, in the right fashion, But, we started with B.F. Goodrich, Bilstein, Tecate Beer, that was the main sponsor for SCORE. So we started on the right foot. That was our foundation, I know a little bit of marketing, business and stuff like that. I have a business degree, so we start up on the right foot. So year to year, wins and championships and all our trajectory help us, being with the right sponsors.
And you've been with those sponsors since the beginning, a couple of them, right? B.F. Goodrich and Rugged?
Bilstein, yeah.
Bilstein?
Yeah.
So I ran into Frank D'Angelo last night downstairs. He's here. Did your days with B.F. Goodrich go back to him?
I started with Dan Newsom, back in the early, late 80s and 90s, But, they've been great to us,
I think it means something to say Baja proven.
Yeah,
I think Baja still means something.
And, we've been tested, like we race the street tires, on our Class 11s, You can buy them, at Costco or, Discount Tires or, any place where they sell BFGs, you can find BFGs. And our tires are not Kevlar or nothing fancy. They're tires you can buy on eBay or, that's what we use.
So 30 plus years, you're being inducted into the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame tonight. Let's just say that again. Congratulations. What have you learned? Tires, suspension, terrain, when to push, when not to push. I mean, tell me about what all that has amounted. I mean, you've got a staggering number of wins. We're going to go into that in a minute, but how do you distill all that?
Something that I can tell you is, if I'm not racing, I don't know nothing. But as soon as I put in the first gear, you know, all the everything that I learned, you know, it goes like, it flashes, you know. But I'm a regular person, you know, when I'm not racing, but as soon as that flag goes down, you know, I'm a different person. That's what I can tell you, you know. All the knowledge that I have, you know, it's unbelievable, you know. It's not because I'm saying it, but it could be a Class 11 or it could be anything automotive, I can tell you. From a motorcycle to a bicycle to a race car to a new car to, it doesn't matter, you know. Fortunately, I have the knowledge to understand the automotive business, you know, cars.
And you need to have some sympathy to your vehicle in the Baja. I mean, maybe not trophy trucks these days, but when you start with something like your Bug, it's a 74, one's a 74.
74, the other one is a 69.
So to start with those vehicles, you've got to have some sympathy. You just can't flog them. You can't beat them the whole time if you want them to last.
Mm-hmm.
What are you faster now with 30 plus years of experience than you used to be when you were a young man, or is it different?
You know, I could say that it's different. I have never been somebody that is fast on flat, because I'm not. But I'm pretty fast at the roughest places. It doesn't matter if I'm against a guy, you know, a young guy or whatever. You know, I have ways to go faster. I will look for my lines. You know, I see people that races our class. Any guy from a Class 11 can guide a trophy truck guy to tell him where to go. You know, they have their egos. We don't have our egos. You know, we don't have money. We don't have, you know, it's different. Our racing, we have to keep the car in one piece. You know.
Well, I saw it firsthand in January of this year. I did a 2,400-mile dirt drive working on mapping the course for the Nora 1000. So Hector Sarabia was driving for most of it, but he had to fly home, and then Eliseo Garcia moved over into the driver's seat. And it's just interesting to see how a Class 11 guy approaches terrain and how softly he goes into things versus Eliseo, you know, who races, I think, a Class 10. Mm-hmm. So he just hits things a little bit differently. And we were driving a Toyota Land Cruiser, an FJ80, but it was very interesting for me to be behind the driver in the you know, the back seat, but directly behind the driver for both men, how a Class 11 guy sees the road.
Yeah, you know what, even if we go to the same map, you know, in the same BCPs, you know, we see the scene of it differently. And, you know, I see trophy trucks, drivers, they go and hit all the bumps. And, you know, if you move a few feet, there's another course. But you have to drive it. You have to know about it. And you have to get the feeling of it. You don't have to go that fast. You know, these guys are killing themselves to go pretty fast, but you can move a few feet and the course is there. Different course. So that's what, you know, one day Marty Filka told me, why don't you do a book or write a book, you know, about your knowledge and all that stuff, you know, because you have different feeling, you know, I have different feelings of driving, different feelings of intuition, you know, this is, you know, guessing is not right when you're racing. I think I'm going to guess. And that's when you make your mistakes, you know. Guessing does not exist in off-road. That's my feeling. Probably I'm wrong.
Yeah, but listen, as I understand it, you don't even pre-run.
I do not.
You just you put your helmet on, put the driver's suit on, you prep your car, and you get in and go. And occasionally you get in and go a long, long way. Mm-hmm. It's a long time before you give a seat up to somebody else.
Well, you know, I get out when I get tired. You know, I love to drive. You know, the first probably 100 miles I get bored. I think, what am I doing here? I should have been in my house or whatever, stay with the grandkids. But, as soon as the race evolves, it's, a different feeling. I love to race at night. I like to go race 500 miles, why not? Get out of the car, drink a beer, see everybody that is waiting for me. For me, that's an accomplishment.
Hey, we're going to jump into some accolades here, and then I'm going to introduce Robert Lawrence, who, as I understand it, nominated you for the Hall of Fame. So, Robert, let me just introduce you here and say hello.
Hello.
So what was it about Eric that made you say, you know what, I'm going to make this guy a Hall of Famer, make sure that they finally recognize this king of Class 11?
Well, I was pretty aware of Eric, and I knew that he was a legend in the sport in Class 11, and I had the honor to talk to him and meet him as we kind of worked to coordinate how we were going to integrate the vintage race cars into the 50th Baja 1000. And I got to know him, and then I found him to be just a genuinely really nice guy. I mean, I was a little bit scared about doing the 1000. I hadn't done it before. And he was telling me a lot of things that I would have had to race for 30-some years to find out. He was giving me great pointers. He was mentoring me. And so I just really appreciated the help that he gave me. And I felt more confident going into that race. And then we met again at the beginning of the race because we start way in the back with the Class 11s. And he was sitting on the curb and we're sitting there. And I think we had about 2 or 3 hours before we were going to start. So I went over, talked to him some more. And then I just thought he was, a true champion, but also somebody who was humble and that would help another racer in need, like myself. And so I called him one time and I said, hey, I'm thinking about nominating you for the Hall of Fame. Is that okay with you? And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, that'd be great. And, it took a while. It was, 3 years of trying to convince the voting committee and the board. But, I'm very proud to know him and know him as a friend. In fact, we're neighbors now in the same country since I moved to Mexico permanently from Texas. And like I said, he's just a champion. And, one of the things that all the racers know is we all have a very special respect for Class 11 because, any racer, even the guys in the trophy trucks, they have a special respect for Class 11 because none of them want to do it. It's like that's the hardest way you can possibly race the Baja 1000 is in a Class 11. He's not driving a couch with 3 feet of suspension travel. So,
and 1,000 horsepower.
And 1,000 horsepower, 1,200, whatever they're up to now. So it's just an amazing thing. And, and I thought about it, and, one of the movies he was been featured in now, I guess 3 movies that I'm aware of. The first one was Dust to Glory, and watching that, I really took notice of the fact that what really got attention in that movie were the motorcycles, the trophy trucks, and Class 11.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, if that didn't spawn a whole new generation of people wanting to do Class 11, I mean, I don't know what would.
Oh, yeah. I was ready to go find a bug.
Here at Slow Baja, we can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser south of the border. And when we go, we'll be going with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Check them out at bajabound.com. That's bajabound.com, serving Mexico travelers since 1994. Have you asked your doctor if Baja is right for you? If your doctor says yes, well, maybe you need to check out the Baja XL Rally. It's every other year, and it's coming up February 2023, the 17th through the 26th, San Diego, all the way down the peninsula, and all the way back up to Tijuana. 10 days, 3,000 miles. If you're interested in doing it and you got some questions, hit me up at slowbaja.com, click that contact button, or you can direct message me at slowbaja on Instagram or Facebook. And always check out the bajaxl.org page. That's bajaxl.org. And Hope to see you down at the start line in San Diego for a grand adventure. Hey, we're back with Eric Solorzano, the king of Class 11s, and we're going to wrap up our interview. But I wanted to go into some stats. 30 years in the same cars, 8 Baja 1000 wins. You won the Baja 2000 in the year 2000, Class 11. 9 San Felipe 250 wins, 7 Baja 500 wins, 3 Mint 400 wins, and an absurd amount of wins and record in SCORE.
Well, I want to clear that it's been 11 San Felipe 250s. It's been 11.
Oh, I'm sorry, I shorted you a couple there. Well, yeah, 11. It's probably my research was probably a couple years old. I wasn't up to date.
One ahead of Rob McCachran's.
One ahead.
So we won also the more races here in Primm, Nevada, 8. So we have the record in Primm, Nevada also with SCORE. Most of my racing has been with SCORE, with Sal. Mm-hmm. I cannot say something, SCORE, old SCORE is like, I would say, you cannot compare music from the 70s from music from now. That was SCORE back then. SCORE was SCORE. And
there was a beautiful purity, a rawness to it. It was a different thing.
It was more family,
Uh-huh.
You can feel the environment, right now you go and it's different. I don't want to say that, I love to race with SCORE nowadays, but it's different.
Well, we'll change gears a little bit here. You've raced a lot. You've driven thousands and thousands and thousands of miles in your race cars, not even pre-running, because I understand you don't. Do you have any rituals that you go through before you get into a race car? I've read that you're nervous. I've heard you say you get real nervous.
I get nervous, but it's like I mentioned, as long as as soon as I put in a first gear, and then I turn into a different person. Different. I get calm and I know what I'm doing. I don't do things. I think I drive through the years more technical. I'm a technical. I went to school, riding school, and back in the late 70s and 80s. So techniques how to ride, and you can apply those techniques to any kind of a off-road racing,
Well, I think it helps in any sort of racing that if you've ridden a little dirt bike and slid that around, sliding a faster motorcycle on a track is helpful, and then sliding a car around in the dirt or on a track it's a natural progression.
Yeah.
Let's get into a couple crazy stories here. You ever been face to face with the pit bull?
Well, one day, we went to the Baja 2000. Victor Barajas got into San Ignacio with a broken spindle.
Hang on a minute. You ever been face to face with the pit bull?
Yeah, this is something real funny, we went to the Baja 2000. Victor Barajas broke a spindle, and we replaced it, and then another one got broken, so I didn't have the third one, from the same side. So I saw at this Huesadero, that's a wrecking yard, and I saw a bug, and at the end, but nobody was there. And there were 2 pit bulls, and then my co-driver, he was with me. His name was Ruben. He died a few years ago, Ruben Camacho. And I told him, Ruben, let's go, and you go with me, and you watch the dogs, and then I pulled the spindles from that bug. So he told me, I'm not going with you. I told him, why not? Let's go. And then I jumped the fence, and the dogs did nothing. He just followed me, and they were on the side to me. And then I took the spindles, the arms, everything from, I didn't give permission to no one, but I took them. And we finished the Baja 2000 with the stolen spindle.
Stolen spindles from the junkyard. You face down a couple of junkyard dogs, and you're still here. You're not all stitched up, ripped up.
That's
amazing.
something that really happened,
That's amazing. Hey, another story I heard is what you were stuck, broken down for 3 or so days. You call your wife, she thinks you're drunk. Can you go into that a little bit?
This is a part of it.
You can't make this stuff up.
A story. We're talking about 2 different entities. But a guy from Rosarito, Winningest is his last name. He builds race cars for a long time. He does the race cars for Ernie Negrete, Class 5. They race SCORE and here in the States. But anyway, he shows up in a 4-seater, and we didn't have water. We didn't have nothing. We was just we're going to pull the race car because we had 2 flats. So we didn't know what happened to the car. And then this guy shows up with water and asks him, "Hey, do you got water?" He gave me like a big stack of water. And the guy told me, "Are you fine?" He asked me, "Do you need something?" I asked him, "Do you have a satellite phone?" He said, "Yes." So I asked him, "Can I borrow it?" So I called my wife, "Hey, Diana, I'm here, broken here with the Jeep and the race car." And she hanged me. No. And I called her back, "Are you drunk or what?" I told him, "No, I'm here stranded." And she didn't believe me and she hanged me. So later on, she called everyone, put it on Facebook and stuff like that. And my friend Dennis Hollenbach went and we meet him over at the highway. And another guy, Eric from Ensenada, went and helped me bring the car to Ensenada. But we have a lot of stories, not good stories.
Well, let's take that moment of borrowing somebody's sat phone and just talk about the immense amount of technological changes that you've seen in racing since the time that you started to where we are now. And how do you feel about?
Well, something I can tell you, there's been a lot of changes, and we still race with the same cars, with being competitive. But I think that
you started with route books and paper and dead reckoning and other things. Now people drive on a screen and a line and a dot.
Something you forgot to mention: respect.
Respect
Was the key of an off-road racer, off-road enthusiast. People didn't leave all this leave all this garbage on the course. They've been doing booby traps all the time, But respect was different. I don't remember somebody hitting me 20 years ago. It was not acceptable.
So you're saying a faster car wants to bump you to get you out of
they don't care.
To get you out of the way.
They don't care. They're more in a hurry.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't have respect. But when they broke down, we go and tell them what to do, because unfortunately they don't know what to do. If a spark plug wire goes out, most of them, they have coils nowadays, but they don't know what to do. They don't.
Well, that's what we're getting into. So the changes.
Well, humble opinion, promoters need to listen what I'm going to be saying. But if I have the money, I cannot start racing a trophy truck. If I have the money, I cannot race a 10 truck or a Class 1 car or a trophy spec. It's not acceptable. I may have the money. Money doesn't say nothing.
Well, you can't get into a Formula One car unless you've raced go-karts and moved your way up.
You said the right thing.
But in off-road, you can, if you've got the money, you can get into
they have to go
trophy
to
truck.
Training.
Yeah.
I started racing motocross. I went to the Suzuki Carlsbad motocross school. Then I went to Marty Smith, to learn, how to ride, make me a better person. Really know one of my, you can be a fast rider. You have to prove it. How can you jump from nothing to something? Is like buying a weapon. You know, I'm just going
Start
too
with
far.
a 22. Start with the BB gun.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But that's my point of that's, if they need training, they can call me. I can train people what to do. What if the car stalls? People. The first thing is they go out of the car. You have to wait. You have to see what's happening. Your navigator has to know how to use the Stella. Get out of the car. Those triangles we put in, that they don't work nothing. It doesn't say nothing. The other drivers, they don't care about the triangles. You have to put flares, Go walk a half a mile, put flares, they know that you're there. Why?
It could be life
because
or death.
These guys, they're into electronical games and stuff like that, and real life is not that. That's why a lot of accidents happens. And I don't blame them. They don't know what could happen, You learn how to PlayStation, whatever, games, and they think life is that, but we are in constant danger, because we are.
And you don't get an extra life when you're in Baja.
Well,
I mean, you've probably gotten a few extras yourself, but what you're getting to is it can actually be something serious.
Of course.
Let's not get too deeply into that, but yeah, you're saying that people need to take it much more sincerely and seriously than they are.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you've been awfully kind on this amazing day of your induction to the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. I'm looking forward to hoisting a tequila and saluting you later. Do you have any? It must just kill your body. You look great. You've been doing this for 30 years. It must just kill your body to race a Class 11, 40 hours ish. What's a typical 1,000 mile
normally,
race?
My race is like 520 miles. Probably 24, 27, 30 hours. But for me, it probably is easier because I used to train motocross, and motocross is not easy. You have to center gravity your body and move all your nuts and bolts, when you're riding. So probably it was not a big transition from going pretty fast in the corners and jumping double, triples and all that stuff, than being on 5.5 inches on the back and 9 at the back, so probably it was not that as hard as people think.
So as I said to you earlier, driving my old Land Cruiser, my secret's, tequila and Tylenol. Do you have any secrets for recovery or any preparations that you do for staying fit and staying active and being able to compete at 30 years in of racing?
Well, I do my drill every night. I work 4 or 5 hours on the race car after work, and that's not fun.
So you work a full day, plus you put in a half day on the car.
Fun, Sometimes I think, what am I doing here? I can stay in my house or go travel but I love the sport, off-road. I love my class, and I love people that race my class. Because we speak the same language. Probably I can say something that it doesn't feel right to another class guy, but starting from the bottom and being on the bottom all the time, and me being here, for me is something that I'm very proud. And now that I have the time I want to thank Robert Lawrence to giving me the opportunity to be here, because this is a big step for my life. I'm downhill. One day I'm going to say I'm going to hang the boxing gloves, or I don't know. One day I will say, I'm done. I don't know when, but I don't think it's going to be pretty soon. But
no, I think it's very interesting. I really do believe it's very interesting that there's nobody who can be competitive in Formula One at 62 years old. That does not exist. I don't think you can do it in Le Mans car. I don't think you can do it in the top of any sports car or any other form of racing, Grand Prix motorcycles, off-road motorcycles, but you can do it in off-road racing. You can be Larry Rossler, who can still win.
Yeah.
You can be 50-something years old, 60 years old, and you can still be at the very top of your game if you've got the equipment. And explain that to me.
Well, the beautiful part of our class is that we're able to see the course. That's something that, we're in a hurry as fast as we can go, because we're limited.
80-ish miles an hour, right?
Well, it will go, sometimes we'll go like 1-2 miles per hour, and sometimes we go 60, 65, 70, 80. But most of the time we're hitting the 20-ish, miles per hour. And you have to have your own pace, There's a lot of newcomers, new guys, new kids. They're pretty fast, They turned this class 11 into, I don't know what class, but they're pretty fast, And I see them, and I was thinking, they're going to break down, and they don't, I don't know. That's the truth, I have to see reality. If I didn't, I see some kids that are like, geez, did they launch those 11s? Crandon, you see, the 11s probably are faster than class 5, 1600s, they are. And, but I get excited, what this class had evolved, One day Marty Fielka saw me driving my 11, and he said to Dana, we're going to put a class 11 on the movie, and that was me. I got the chills when I remember that when he told me,
And we're talking about Dust to Glory, folks. An amazing film. The very first Dust to Glory was a truly transformational film that put people into the emotion, the exhaustion, it's like conquering Everest to do this event.
Yeah. And then I saw the first time the music and interviews, and every time that I see it, I get very excited. It's probably, I would say, it's like the Bible of a off-road movie. It's got a mixture of that music, and it travels you, to a different point.
Yeah, and the connection from the filmmaker to his dad, Bruce Brown, who did the very first 27 Hours to La Paz, is such an amazing documentary as well of the beginnings of this sport. Well, listen, we don't need to waste more of your time. You've got a big night ahead of you, so Eric, I can't say thank you enough for making a little time for Slow Baja. I hope our paths cross south of the border somewhere, Tijuana, or on a race someplace. And again, Robert Lawrence, thank you very much for nominating this humble man. And I just am delighted to see you get into the Hall of Fame tonight.
Thank you very much. And whenever you're down the border, we can take you to the shop so you can see what we do on a daily basis. And everybody's invited. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric Solorzano. The king of Class 11s here with Slow Baja. Robert, have a great night tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Muchas gracias.
Have I told you about my friend True Miller? You've probably heard the podcast, but let me tell you, her vineyard, Adobe Guadalupe Winery, is spectacular. From the breakfast at her communal table, bookended to an intimate dinner at night, their house-bred Azteca horses, Solomon the horseman, will get you on a ride that'll just change your life. The food, the setting, the pool, it's all spectacular. AdobeGuadalupe.com. For appearing on Slow Baja today, our guest will receive the beautiful Benchmark Map 72-page Baja Road and Recreation Atlas. Do not go to Baja without this, folks. You never know when your GPS is going to crap out, and you're going to want a great map in your lap. Trust me. Well, I enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did. One of the reasons I strive to do these things in person is to meet the people behind the voices, to meet the people who've lived these incredible lives, had these achievements that have them on slow Baja. Eric Solorzano, what a wonderful, humble human being. He's just a normal guy until the green flag drops. You heard him say it. And the other thing that I hope you caught was him talking about racing SCORE in the 70s with Sal is like music from the 70s versus music today. I think he's saying a lot there. I'll leave you to sort that out. But I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope to cross paths with Eric down in Baja in Tijuana, see his shop and share some tacos and a beer with him. He's a cool cat. I still have the Slow Baja store on hold. I have not gotten settled here in Chicago, but we've secured a place and hope to move into it shortly. So hopefully all that merch will be in hand before the holidays are before the holidays are upon us. So if you need to get a Slow Baja shirt or sweatshirt or a hat for that somebody special, well, I hope to have them in hand in a few more weeks. So stay tuned for that. Got a bunch of fun shows coming up, so stay tuned for those. And to paraphrase Baja 11 Steve McQueen, Baja is life. Everything that happens before or after is just waiting.